All righty, folks, good evening. I almost said good afternoon. And I'm like, no, it's 7 p.m. here, and at least in Chicago. I don't know where everyone's from, but it's definitely not afternoon here in Chicago. Welcome to our theater town hall. This is going to be hopefully a really fantastic opportunity for all of you to get your questions answered about our theater programs that we have here at Columbia College Chicago. In particular, we really want to focus tonight on the acting and the musical theater programs that we have, both the BA and the BFA tracks for each of those programs. So we'll talk about those a little bit later on. But first, I want to start with introductions. So I will actually have Jesse, if you want to introduce yourself first, then I'll have Brian, then I'll talk a little bit, and then I'll bounce it back over to you all. So Jesse, if you want to start us off with tell folks who you are, where you're from, what you do, all those things.
Awesome. Hi, I am Jesse Carlo. I am an assistant professor of theater here at Columbia College, and I am also the musical theater program coordinator. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am super excited to be here with you all to kind of chat, field any questions, comments, concerns, emotional disturbances, whatever you got today about, college and your interest in theater and pursuing that as a field of study for you here with us at Columbia.
Awesome. Brian.
Cool. Hi. Yeah, my name is Brian Shaw, he, him, his pronouns, and I am the coordinator of the acting program at Columbia College in the theater department, acting BA and BFA. And exactly, we are absolutely here for you tonight. So I was totally in the middle of something else when I realized that this was happening. So I'm like, my light is not good. My hair is really crazy. My energy is a little bizarre, but it's good. I'm totally here for you. And I mean, I will say, I have 3 kids. Jesse you have, right? You have a kid, but your kid is so far away from college. But I have like one of our children is finishing their last year of university right now. Another one just graduated in June and is in grad school right now. And our daughter graduated a couple years ago with a BFA in fine arts in, sorry, my cat just joined us as well. And she's thinking about heading to graduate school. So it's like, I've been through the whole, like I've gone to college thing with people who I know really well and love really well. And so I know some of the wackiness around it, and I know you'll also totally survive and will do brilliant things. So I'm also happy to sort of bring that perspective just in terms of, I know a little bit of where you're coming from. So yeah, so feel free to, if you have questions about those kinds of things too, I'm happy to help.
Awesome. And then finally, I guess it's me. I am Derek Brinkley, pronouns he, him. I am the Assistant Vice President of Undergraduate Admissions here at Columbia College Chicago. I've been at Columbia for 4.5, almost 5 years. This upcoming January will be 5 years, and love the institution, love the folks that I work with, these fine folks that are with me this evening. Super excited to be here with you all. I'm personally excited about this particular one, and part of it for me is the fact that I was a theater person growing up, right? So I grew up as a tap dancer, I was a gymnast, so both of those kind of from age 5 throughout the rest of my life, did goodness jazz and hip hop and all those things, started into musical theater in high school and did that in high school and college, and did choreography for musical theater after I graduated from college. So I have a strong personal connection to this particular area of study as well. So I'm super excited again to be with you all this evening and to talk a little bit about the programs. But what I want to start off with is I just want to share just a little bit of the ground rules for this evening, just so folks have an understanding of what to expect for the evening. So first off, this particular conversation will go until we've allotted time until 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So that's an hour and a half from now. We may go the entire time, we may not go the entire time, right? It really depends on the questions that you all have as students. Many of you may have parents with you as well. It really depends on your questions that you have this evening. Okay, and so know that we've got a little bit of time available as well. We are going to be recording this session, and actually I just got a message in the chat box, in my chat box about this. So this session is being recorded, and we will be providing this out to students and families after the fact as well. We will also eventually post this on our BFA website that is available for students and families to be able to gain a little bit more information about Columbia as well. So for those of you that are here on behalf of your student, or for those of you that want to go back and rewatch certain pieces of the recording, you'll be able to do so as well. So know that that is a thing we are recording. I do ask that mics stay off unless you are speaking, okay? Really, you know, Brian and Jesse are going to spend some time sharing some information with you all, but we will have time at the end if folks want to come off mic and actually ask your questions out loud. We're always willing and wanting to hear your voices and get your questions in that way. But please do know that the chat feature is available as well. So feel free to put any questions in the chat box as we go throughout the evening. I will be helping kind of disseminate those questions out to both Brian and Jesse as we go through the process this evening. So feel free to put any questions here, obviously about the programs, but questions about Columbia College Chicago in general, questions about the college search process in general, right? Feel free to add any of those questions in the chat, and we will answer them throughout the presentation and at the end of the presentation as best as we can. So those are really the ground rules for this evening. Otherwise, this should be a fun time. I think we have a lot of fun with this. So we'll officially get started. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian first to discuss a little bit about the acting program in particular.
Yep.
And as you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Some of these folks, or some of the questions that'll go here, I will eventually maybe jump in and answer them out loud. Sometimes we'll answer them in the chat, so we kind of go back and forth with a little bit of that as well. But Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Cool. Thank you, Derek. Yeah, and feel free to interrupt me anytime, Derek, and stop my rambling. But I have a really quick question for y'all first, and you can use, the reaction button in your whichever one you choose in the Zoom. But I'm just curious how many of you are interested or primarily curious about the BFA in acting first. So I'd love to see a show of hand. Thank you. Cool, super helpful. And then BA in acting. Is anybody interested specifically in the BA? I'm seeing hands go down and clapping stop. Veronica, thank you. You are great. So I will address both. It's just really good to get a sense of where your interests are, so I know sort of how much time to spend on each area. So yeah, the acting program at Columbia College is it's large. There are a number, we have the department as a whole is roughly 800 theater majors, which is kind of a miraculous number in so many ways, and there are some really great things about that, just in terms of having, it's the largest theater club in the world, probably, right? So so just a sense of the amount of energy that is in the department, and the amount of interest in the art form, and the really varied interest in the art form, right? Some people really want to get in and be well-known actors in Broadway or film or TV or regional theater, but other people have interest in theater as an art form that is about conflict resolution or community building or reaching specific audiences or telling specific stories from specific cultural perspectives, or and many things in between, right? Aesthetically, a lot of really different ideas are in the department. So one of the, I think, really huge benefits, certainly from my perspective as a teacher, and I've been at Columbia for a rather long time, is just the diversity and the richness of the student body, right? So you are going to learn so much from the people that you are in classes with, right? And I think that it's an important thing to think about when you are considering colleges, is who is the student body, right? Because that is who we draw in as Columbia College Chicago is actually a massive asset to your education as a person and as an artist. So, so I'll say that just to begin with is just, you know, if you're interested in us as a school, be interested in who comes to us, right? And all the various whys of who the people are who come to us. And that is something that we really believe and work with as faculty members in our classes, is to really activate the student body with the student body, right? So yeah, you're going to come to us, and our faculty are really strong, and I'm a working actor and a working director, and have done a lot of international work and a lot of community-based work, and I have a resume that's 20 pages long. You know, I've been on over 100 shows, I've done like 50 film and TV projects, I've done a lot of stuff, and that's cool and that's great, right? But I'm also like, what's my next project, right? So I'm like, what is the next thing, right, for me? And so, you know, so one of the next things for me, for example, is I'm working with a faculty member in the literature department who wrote a poem about Phyllis Wheatley, who was one of the first Black American literary figures in America. She was enslaved and learned English and wrote these amazing poems before the Revolutionary War. She was eventually freed. But Alan Johnson has written this really kind of amazing poem in her voice, is looking for performers to activate that voice through audio and create sort of a 3 or 4 episode podcast that really lives in Phyllis Wheatley's voice. And so he came to me because I've done that kind of work with podcasts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so like, that's the next project. The pay is terrible, I promise you, right? Like, it's $300. I'll tell you right up front, that's how much I would get paid to work on this project, which is zero, right? It might as well be zero, but I'll take the 300 and I'll go out to dinner, really good dinner, right? But I'm interested in the project. It's not going to make me famous, right? At all. It's a really interesting story. It's a story that I think is, you know, et cetera. And I'm really interested in the intersection between audio and theater right now, et cetera, et cetera. So like, we're sort of like in the mix of making work as artists, right? And so that's what we really want to bring into the room. And so BA, BFA, yes, we have both, right? So the BA in acting, you do not need to audition for. You can, once you're accepted into Columbia College, and if you self-select into the BA, you're in the BA, which is super cool. I think that's really important for a number of reasons, one of which is that arts education is incredibly unequal within the country, and that we do not well, we don't discriminate, frankly, that you need to have had a certain exposure to the arts before you can come and study the arts in an intensive way at a college, right? So we have a really diverse student body in terms of who's coming in, many of whom do have a really dense and rich experience in the arts, some of whom do not, right? Because of their high school experience, right? And the resources that were available in high school, either in urban high schools that are under-resourced or in rural high schools that are under-resourced, right? And so we also have students who are coming to us with that, right, with less experience, but a burning desire for the art form, right? And that's exciting to us, and we want to be able to think about being able to offer an education that is rich and compelling and consistent, and to bring those people into the art form in the way that they're interested in being in the art form. And you know, it's a very rational curriculum in terms of what the curriculum offers in the BA in terms of theater technique, acting work, on-camera acting work, movement, voice, history, theory, etc., right? And we do a heck of a lot of shows in the department as well. So 30 to 40 shows a year. So you have an opportunity to put your work into practice on stage or in on-camera experience. In terms of the BFA, that is an audition experience. So you would audition in a couple of ways. You would do a pre-screen audition that is due December 1st, 2021, which is actually kind of coming up. We will look at those and we'll make a number of offers of people to do a callback with us. And that callback will consist of a kind of second audition, but it's really like, do one of your monologues with us again, but here's an idea, like try this idea and let's see where you can take this idea. And why do you want to study this thing? And what questions do you have for us? So your second audition is not so much like a test of your ability as a performer, whatever that means, but is an opportunity to engage with you as a performer and engage with us as educators and to think about what your education means to you, right? And so we really want a diverse BFA class. We want students who are interested not only in being like really fabulous performers and could get that sort of professional work, but are also interested in what theater is doing in the world, right? And one of the cornerstones of our BFA program is that you would spend a semester abroad with one of our exchange partners to really experience what theater teaching is like and theater practice is like in another part of the world. And so you really broaden your experience to include, you know, sort of a global perspective on what the art form is doing, right? And where the art form is going now. And we're very careful about picking partners who are all about that. So, so that's sort of the BA. The BFA is obviously more credit hours, right? It's more time in your life. And all of those kinds of things. And the cohorts are really great. Like we just have really, the BFA students they're great. The cohorts are really fun and smart and creative and just really enjoyable to work with. I get to work with them tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning. And I'm, you know, it's nice. That's a good thing I get to look forward to is with the BFA graduating class. They're a very funny group of people to be in a room with, and really smart and really bold, and risk taking, and really thoughtful and caring as well. So they're kind of amazing, actually. So so the BFA is super cool. But you know, we're only bringing in about 12 to 16 people into the BFA in a year. So it's a small cohort. And if you don't get selected into the BFA is really strong in terms of performance practice, and you can augment the essential BA curriculum with additional electives in areas that you're interested in studying. So if you don't get into the BFA, you know, but you're interested in Columbia College, by all means, think about coming here. Well, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about it. And you know, we can talk about like how the curriculum could work for you. Anyway, I'm done.
I like it. There are some questions here, so I'm gonna take a few of these and let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into this. So,
yep.
So the question I actually want to start with first is Eliza's question about applying both to the BA and the BFA program. So I'll kind of take that one as the admissions person here in the room, and I'll kind of share a little bit about the process and the timeline and kind of what you will be looking at. So when you apply to Columbia College Chicago, on our application, you can pick one program to apply to. Okay, so whether that be the BA in acting, maybe it's the BFA in acting, maybe it's the BA in illustration, maybe you decide you want to apply for the BFA in musical theater performance. You have an opportunity to pick one program on your application for admission. Okay, if you are a student, in my opinion, that is interested in the BFA program, okay, you definitely want to apply for that BFA program, whether it be the BFA in acting or whether it be the BFA in musical theater. The way that the process will work is that you will apply to the college. Okay, you'll list the BFA in acting or musical theater performance on your application. We will review your application for admission once we have your application and your transcript or transcripts. Okay, your high school transcript, or if you're a transfer student coming from college, your college transcripts. Okay, once we have those two items, we're going to review your application for admission to the college. Okay, we go through that process. You'll get a letter, hopefully, right, from us in the mail saying, congratulations, you have been admitted to Columbia College Chicago. We noticed that you have indicated that you are interested in the BFA in acting, or you're interested in the BFA in musical theater performance. Do know that you have to complete extra steps as a part of that application process. But for now, you are admitted to Columbia in the BA program. So that's the way that it works for all BFA students coming in. You get admitted to the college first, and if you're admitted to the college, you're in the BA program of that BFA program that you chose on your application. Okay, so if you again listed the BFA in acting, you have a spot in our BA in acting program. If you list the BFA in musical theater performance, you have a spot in the BA in musical theater. Okay, you start there. Then you have to make sure that you submit your pre-screening items. Okay, pre-screening items. Those pre-screening items and the rest of your entire admissions application is due by December 1st. That is a Wednesday, I believe, this year, but that is due by December 1st. Okay. Our wonderful faculty here will spend the month of December going through all of the pre-screenings that folks had submitted as a part of the process. And then on Tuesday, January 11th, we will let students know whether you are called back for that second audition process, or if it's a thanks, you have a spot in the BA program. We appreciate your application to the BFA program. Okay, so you're either getting a callback or you're getting that, hey, not right now for the BFA program, okay? For those that are called back, you'll then go through the process of going through that audition process. And again, we'll dive into, because I know that there were folks interested in what the audition process looks like, so we'll dive a little bit more into that process. And then by April 1st, we will let all of those callback students know whether you're in the program, whether you're on a wait list for the BFA program, or whether you are just in the BA program. Okay, so I think it's just important for everyone to note that even if you don't get into the BFA program of your choice, you still have a spot in the BA program of that same track. Okay, so hopefully that answers Eliza's question about applying to both the BA and the BFA program. Again, if you're interested in either one, I'd apply for the BFA one first, see if you get in. If you do, great. If not, you have a spot in the BA program as well. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. I wanted to so Jenny asked a really good question, and eventually, Isabel, I promise we'll get back up to your musical theater questions here when Jesse kind of speaks. But you're asking how many students typically get accepted into both of those programs, right? The BFA in musical theater performance and the BFA in acting. And here's how I kind of like to answer it, right? And Brian kind of got to it. We are looking to enroll 12 to 16 students every year into each of those programs, roughly. Okay, so 12 to 16 students in the BFA in acting, 12 to 16 students in the BFA in musical theater performance. To give you an idea of the numbers last year, so for musical theater, there were like 320 students last year that applied for those 12 to 16 spots in musical theater. Okay, out of those students, we invited about 100 students to the callback. Okay, so that 300 is now getting narrowed down to 100 for the callbacks. And then for the musical theater performance, we admitted 43 of those 100 roughly students to the musical theater performance program. Okay, and then we had, out of those 43, again, roughly, I think we had roughly 10-ish students, 10 to 11, 12 students who actually decided to join us this year. Okay, so that's what it looks like for the musical theater performance BFA program. For the acting, kind of similar. We had in total about 200 applications for the acting BFA program. We invited 64 of those students to a callback, and we ended up saying yes to 38 of those 64 students. And then again, roughly 13-ish enrolled this past year in the program. Okay, so that gives you kind of an idea from the app to those that were called back, to those that were admitted, and then to those that actually decided, yes, I'm coming to Columbia. This is kind of what I want to do. Okay, so know that that is a thing. And then just briefly for the comedy studies program, and Brian probably answered this. Yeah, comedy studies, there's no caps on that. So if you apply and you are accepted to the college, you are in the comedy writing and performance program. Okay, so wanted to mention that as well. Jesse, do you want to talk a little bit about musical theater and maybe as a part of that process? And this will be something I think both for you, Jesse, and for Brian, just in terms of like, what kind of jobs do folks do and get after they graduate from the college as well, kind of getting to Isabella's question. So Jesse, all you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I will tell you that my time with you is a little limited because I am currently in rehearsal. So my cast is upstairs right now working with my my AD and the music director learning some music. So I'm going to go through this, answer as many questions as I can, and then I got a kickball change and exit stage left. So please, I'm going to drop my my email shortly into the chat so that you can have it, so you can reach out. I will schedule a Zoom and talk to y'all one-on-one. But you will have to forgive my exit shortly. So the musical theater BFA and BA programs, you know, the way that I can think about what it is that we provide here that is unique to other institutions is that our musical theater programs, and I think our theater department writ large, but speaking for our program in particular, both the BFA and BA really caters very closely to the creative artist, individuals who are curious about the intersections of theater and other disciplines, theater and other movements within society, whether that be social justice or that be devising works, whatever that it might show, however that might show up in your own interests, right? Specifically, our BA program is really fashioned to give you the space to explore that. They give you the opportunity to be able to double major. They have the ability to minor, and some of those can look like my double major in marketing, right? Or those that double major in ASL, or those that might double major in education and minor in Latin American studies, right? So there are a lot of ways that the BA program lends itself to individuals that have a unique curiosity about how theater intersects with the rest of the world and how they might be able to create a pathway to new forms of theater, you know, really shake up the industry and really participate in unique ways. Our BFA program is a little bit more rigorous in that we have about 8 more credits than those in the BA program. So we have 128 credits, and it focuses mainly on performance. Again, still saving room for those that have a curiosity about how performance intersects with social identity markers, with the work that they want to produce in the community. And so our programs, of course, as you know, really deal with how acting, singing, and dancing come together and culminate in a unique storytelling experience. We explore ways that happen in the avant-garde. We explore ways that could happen in more traditional settings. Right now, the work that I am directing upstairs is a musical theater concert, which was a call for new works that we did out to the community, and we siphoned it down to 2 works that we chose. And so currently these are brand new works that our students are getting to workshop with the composers, lyricists, and librettists. So this is a really exciting opportunity to see how workshopping performances lead to the evolution of a work. And these students are now, their voices and their bodies and their expertise and their talent is part of that evolutionary process. So we think about the ways in this program and in the department, we're always considering the ways that theater is changing and evolving, and how we have to cast specifically now in the world in the light of BIPOC demands, white American theater. We see you, how we need to be preparing you all for a kind of theater that does not exist, how we need to be preparing you all to be the movers and the shakers, the culture changers, the innovators in the theatrical industrial complex that, and in this particular program and within the department writ large, we are pivoting towards anti-racist and equitable work. We are pivoting towards a kind of theater that is diverse, that is equitable, that is integrated, that seeks to dismantle systems that have unfortunately upheld oppressive practices for a long time. So this is really a wonderful opportunity for you to get in on being part of the change that theater needs to make. And so we're hoping to create bold and courageous theater practitioners who will go out there, and whether they are music directors, choreographers, directors, performers, writers, teachers, whatever role it is that they play out in the world, they are playing that role with the sense of commitment to diversifying and making equitable and integrated practices within the theatrical industrial complex for good. And so what does this look like? Yes, Isabella, to answer your question, we offer dance and voice for musical theater. We do. There's a lot of changes coming down the pipeline right now for musical theater, where we're really evaluating sort of the first 2 years of your time here and what that means and how we can make that much more meaningful and impactful for you. And so that as you get into your last 2 years, you are now at the point where you are really being able to think about the uniqueness that you want to bring to the field, and you're really starting to come to self. So the dance and the voice classes happen within house, and you have voice classes that are taught with musical theater faculty, but then there are voice classes that are also taught from the music program, and those are your private voice lessons. Our dance programs also, for those of us who might think of ourselves as being advanced in dance, we do have opportunities for you to fulfill those credits in the dance program itself. If you're feeling that you want to focus in on something much more particular, so whether that is in hip hop, or that is in African dance styles, or that is in jazz, or that is a more advanced ballet specific class, absolutely open and available to you. And we will make sure that we are tracking that, and those things are added to your transcript so that it is a degree fulfilling class. As far as what our students do after graduation, our students do lots of stuff after graduation. A lot of our BFA students are working in the field. A lot of our BFA students are working either as directors and choreographers or as performers, either locally here in Chicago, regionally around the country, some even on the Broadway. And so those are wonderful connections to have to the community. You should also know that your faculty are working faculty. I am a Broadway veteran, having done international and national entertaining work. Also, I'm a theater interdisciplinarian, so I have a PhD in theater and performance studies, and so I teach across the curriculum here, including in the MFA program and our theater studies program. So we have a faculty body that brings in not only the knowledge that they have gained from their own training and studies in the academy, but also what they bring as practical knowledge from the industry itself, and continued involvement in the industry, as Brian spoke to earlier, this continued connection with the industry writ large that keeps us aware and abreast of the things that are changing. So that you're gonna have a lot of opportunity. Our career center and also our programming here allows us to stay connected to the Chicago community and the international performing community writ large, and they provide opportunities for internships, audition notices for professional work, as well as local and regional work, as well as auditioning for the myriad of performance opportunities that you will have here within the department. And Brian's not lying when we say it's 30 to 40. And you do not need to be a musical theater major to audition for a musical theater play. You do not need to be an acting major to audition for an acting play. It's an open call to everyone who wants to participate and gain the experience of performance. Also know that wonderful opportunities to work outside of your out of the performance area in production. So you can sign up for a class that will allow you to stage manage, that will allow you to work with a set design, lighting, sound. There are a lot of opportunities for you to get a really truly interdisciplinary theatrical training here. So yeah, I think I said a lot. I hope it answers some questions. And any other questions you might have, please. I'm diggity down to talk about this and have open conversation with you, specifically to you and your needs.
There we go. Nicely done, Jesse. Thank you for that. One of the things I want to kind of circle back around to, and really Madeline and Colin kind of asked a little bit about this, about kind of doing a BFA along with a minor or other things of that nature. So let me kind of explain what that kind of looks like, right? And here's kind of the best way that I like to explain the difference between a BA program and a BFA program, particularly at Columbia, right? A BA program for me is much more about breadth versus depth, right? You're getting a little bit of all of the different pieces of that particular BA program that you want to go into. And it really allows you the flexibility to add on a minor, do a double major, take a lot of classes outside of your discipline. Like, it's much easier to do that as a BA student than it is as a BFA student here at Columbia, okay? If you are a BFA student, that's much more about depth versus breadth, right? So you're really going to be diving a lot more into the content area that you're going into. It's much more focused, and there's a lot less opportunities for students to have space available in your schedule to take other classes outside of your discipline. Now, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. Okay, so it's not that it's impossible to do so, but it's definitely much harder. So I'm going to give you some numbers as kind of an example, right? So if you look at the acting BA program, okay, you need 120 credits to graduate with an acting BA degree. You need 128 credits, like Brian mentioned earlier, to graduate with an acting BFA degree. When you actually look at how that 120 and that 128 breaks down, a couple of things to note. For all students at Columbia College Chicago, 42 credits of that 120 or that 128 is dedicated to the Columbia core curriculum, right? So those are credits that all students have to take at Columbia in math and science and English and writing and history and social sciences. I mean, it's all of those kind of things that students all have to take, because we think that you should be able to graduate from Columbia being able to think critically, communicate effectively, write properly, and be prepared for your future, right? And so that core is going to be common across all folks. So again, the core is 42 credits. Here's where it gets interesting. For acting, the major requirements consist of 48 credit hours. So 48 credit hours if you're doing the acting BA program. If you're doing the BFA program in acting, that jumps up from 48 credit hours to 73 credit hours. So there's a lot more you're taking in the acting program, which leaves a lot less credits for you to pick up that minor, to do that double major, what have you. Similar on the theater side, right? The theater BA program is 47 credit hours that a student would take. If you're doing the BFA program, that is 81 credit hours. It is nearly double the amount of credit hours in the musical theater program as compared if you were doing the BA. So that does not mean that it is not possible to pick up a major or, a double major or a minor, but it's a lot harder to do that. Okay, when you start to then do the math, the rest of the math that kind of works out, that's all elective credits. Those are credits that you can take in other disciplines if you want. If you want to take some electives within the theater department, you can. If you want to, again, pick up a minor or double major, those are what those extra credits are doing. You have very few of those extra credits if you're doing a BFA track at Columbia. So here's my recommendation to folks. And Brian and Jesse may disagree with me, but my recommendation is think about how you want to spend your time at Columbia, okay? If you are so focused on musical theater performance, that is what you think, that's all you want to do. You don't want that minor, you don't want a double major, you don't even really want to take elective classes in other areas, maybe the BFA might be the route that you at least want to apply for. Okay, if you're the student that's like, you know what, yeah, I want to do theater, and I also want to take a couple of film courses, I want to take maybe a dance class or two, and I want to do a minor in marketing, it's probably the BA that's going to be the best route for you in order to get done in 4 years. Okay, so again, hopefully that answers your question, both Colin and Madeline. It's not that it's impossible, it is certainly possible. It's just really, 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 really challenging to do so, unless you're a student who's maybe you took a whole bunch of college level courses while you were in high school, and you can, you know, go on and bring those into Columbia. Maybe you're a student who's maybe transferring in from a 2-year college. It might be a little bit easier to do it in those situations. But for most students, that's why my team in admissions typically says, it's not that you can't, it's just going to be really, really hard for you to do those double majors or those minors if you're going the BFA route. Okay, Jesse.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and add to that, you know, specifically around how we are within the program looking at reshaping the schedule of courses. So and also to understand, y'all, that if you come in with a BA, you have an opportunity to audition for the BFA program in your first year that you're here. So if you decide I want to come in for a BA, but I'm really enjoying these performance-based classes and I really think the BFA is the way for me to go, that's it. Just, you know, you'll go through the process along with everyone else, and you'll submit your audition materials, and you'll receive your callback, and we will process you like we would process anyone else. Obviously, having known you, it's a little bit of a different process, but that's just so that you understand that you can do that. And we have had students who have started in the BFA program and realized that they are really just wanting to be much more explorative, and their interests are beginning to align and intersect with other things, and so they have changed their major to the BA. And this is how these programs align, is that there's a lot of the curriculum that and a lot of the courses that you have to take in both both programs that align with one another. So it's not like, oh, I took this foundations class and now that was a waste of time. Absolutely not. You would need to take the same class if you were doing the BFA program or if you were doing the BA program. And of course, your core curriculum, as we said, is going to be the same all across the majors throughout the entire college. How we are looking at this more uniquely with this program is allowing for the BA students to get the meat and the potatoes of that BA program right at the top. And that means exploring areas of theater studies much more richly and intently at the top of your first 2 years. And then also for the BFA program, really diving into performance much more richly and much more intently in the first 2 years, so that by the time you get to your junior year, we're really certain and sure about a kind of trajectory, right? Maybe we don't know exactly what that looks like, but we know that we have one. And what that allows us to do is then take those remaining electives, however little or how great, depending on the program that you're in, and really customize the final years of your time here for you, so that you can feel as if you are getting what I call the Columbia College Theater Program experience. And that is one that is customizable, one that is unique to all of the creative possibilities within the world of theater. And so I think that if you think about it from that perspective, and we will be here to guide you, we'll be here to answer questions along the way. And the hope is that when you leave here, what you go out to do is actually really be part of the newness that theater is, And we see that happening so much within our alumni body, right? They're out there really doing some stuff, and we get to celebrate them on a regular basis. We have quite the alumni historian, Bill Will, who keeps us all abreast of everything that's happening on the Facebook and also in the theater emails on a regular basis. So we know that they're out there doing great things and shaking some stuff up. So that having said that, peace, love, and hair grease, y'all. I gotta go upstairs to my to my rehearsal. Thank you all so much. And again, my email is in here. And just reach out to me with any questions, okay?
Thanks, Jesse. Good luck with rehearsal.
Thank you.
Get them together.
Thank you, Jesse.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome.
Cool. I can also speak to that a little bit, just in terms
please.
of, because there's also a question from Anu here, interested in creative writing and wondering how much of that is incorporated into the BFA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all great questions, right? And this and the idea about minors and what can you get done and with the BFA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and this is from me, this is totally me speaking as like father of children who are doing college and university, right? All three of my children changed majors. Two of my children transferred to a different school, right? They're totally happy having done those things, right? Because they started when they were 18 years old, and 18 feels like a lot, and it is a lot. And congratulations on being here and being 18 and being, the wonder and splendor that is you. But, the wonder and splendor of you at 18 is going to be a different wonder and splendor at like 20 and a half, right? And so, and from what Jesse was saying, right, like one of the things we do well at Columbia is to really explore, like, what is the art form doing, right? You may not have been exposed, depending on where you went to school and your background and just whatever, right, to things that are happening in the art form. And this is true. I mean, this is true for me at my advanced age, right? Like there's still stuff I'm like, oh my God, that's a cool thing. I've never done that before. I'm saying, yes, I'm doing this, right? So, so it's a constant thing. I mean, this is what being an artist is, right? Is to be in a constant state of process and growth and discovery and risk and all of those things. And so you may walk in going like, I have to have the BFA and I must have the stage combat minor. And you get 2 classes into the combat minor and you're like, I don't want to wear velvet. I want to sling swords. I don't like, whatever. And I've become interested in, right, in creative writing or in whatever, right? There's just so much going on, right? Physical theater, applied theater, whatever, right? And I want to make room for that. And so it's cool, like go in, but don't feel like you're locked in for 4 years at the plan that you walk in with at 18. Then I think that actually, if that happens, in some ways, we sort of haven't done our job. Even though, you may have like, strong ambitions and really strong goals and all that kind of stuff. I still think we want to move you around a little bit, and you want to be moved around a little bit. So leave space for, play.
Agreed. Fully agreed with that. Yeah. And again, with the creative writing thing, I mean, you could still decide, yeah, I want to go the BFA route. And I always tell students this too. I said, look, if you have any remote interest in both, at least apply for the BFA. Totally. We went through the numbers in terms of how many we admit and all of those kind of things. At the end of the day, the majority of students are not going to get into the BFA program that they want to get into, right? And that's just the reality of the situation. And so that's why I love the fact that we have these really strong BA track programs as well. And honestly, 90% of our students at Columbia are in a BA track program at the college anyway, right? There's a smaller subset that do the BFA, and that's well and good and great. But we're always wanting to make sure that folks know that there's not one program that's better than the other, right? Going the BA route is not better than going the BFA route. And so that's why I continue to go back to, how do you want to spend your time? How do you want to spend your time? What do you think you want to do, with your time at the institution? And I think those are the kind of things that will help you decide, is it the BFA? Is it the BA? Is it the BA with the minor? Is it, all the different combinations? And to Brian's point, you are going to change your major, probably, maybe, a time or two, right? I mean, I was a kid who started college as a pre-pharmacy major. And I did that for literally a semester and realized I am not great, nor do I enjoy science all that much. And then I went to business and spent maybe a semester and a half or so in business, and then ended up in education, right? And that was my path. And everyone's going to have their own path as you kind of go through the process. And so lean into that uncomfortability and lean into that uncertainty. Again, I'm 35 years old and still don't always know every day what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I think it's hard to make those decisions when you're so young, as you're going through the whole kind of college search process. So just some tips and tricks for me. But Brian, one of the things I'm really interested if you might be able to go into a little bit in terms of what you all are kind of thinking about as relates to auditions for this upcoming spring and kind of what that callback process, and you talked a little bit about that it's not really, you share a little bit about what it's not, right? This is not a situation,
what is it?
Opportunity for us to get you into a gotcha kind of moment, or to, be, those three people sitting in it, it's not that kind of thing. So do you want to maybe talk just a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to. Actually, we just ran 2 Fridays ago with Michael Pogue, who is a graduate of the theater department. He's in his early 40s now. He just had his first Broadway audition, which he did not book, but he came close. And he's worked at the major theaters in Chicago and has done some film and TV stuff, and is just a lovely human being. So we brought Michael in to run a workshop in auditioning. And the whole idea behind Michael's thing is bring your authentic self to the audition, right? So that is the first thing we did with the BFA students in acting, was to bring people in and say, great, let's actually talk about auditioning. Because Michael's point is the audition is the only time that's not collaborative, right? It is the only time where you get to bring in and say, this is sort of who I am. These are the things that I'm sort of sitting on today as a performer, and that are interesting to me and that kind of make me who I am. And then as soon as you get cast in something, you're in a collaborative process, right? Because you're working with a director, you're working with other actors, or you get cast in the BFA at Columbia College and you're in a collaborative process working, as I said, with other students in the major, and BA students and with faculty, right? So the audition is really an opportunity for you to be you, right? And not feel like you have to please us. So come in, do the thing that you are interested in doing, right? And don't feel like you're trying to fit into some weird box, because we're sort of not a box school. So come in and do that. And we've actually added a wild card thing to the BFA audition, which is optional. You can do up to 90 seconds of, like, I don't know, a thing you do, your fabulous juggling act, or the trick that you taught your dog to do that is partly your performance, really, or a story that you've written, or whatever. Like you can, I don't know, do things. Show us how you grow tomatoes. I don't know, right? So honestly, right, like think of something that is, performative, right, but in a kind of loose way. And so you can do something that is not necessarily from scripted material. So yeah, that's what we're looking for. We're definitely looking. We're definitely interested in your essay, for sure, within the BFA thing, and not so much like I just want to be the best actor I can be. It's like, oh, that's cool. Who doesn't? But I don't even know what that is. Like, the best actor for what audience, in what style of theater, like, I don't even know, right? Like, oh, that's a really good actor. It's like, oh, that's cool. That's also a really good actor, but they're a really different actor, but they're both really good, right? So we're just not trying to box you, right? So be you, engage with us. We do like that, like, especially at the callback, right? Like, engage, like, ask us questions. In fact, we're like, ask us questions. Then if you don't, you're like, that's sort of like peace out.
Then it gets real awkward.
Go to a different school. Like if you can't bring it, yourself to sort of ask a question of somebody, in that kind of situation, then especially when it's an invitation, right? So we definitely want to hear from you. We want to hear from you.
And I think, in some of this, I'm skipping around to some questions. I really would love your take on this question in terms of like, what would you suggest as a good plan B for being an actor, right? Is it something like a marketing or, what other areas? And here's honestly, like, and I typed this in the chat, but I want to get this on the recording too, is I really think truly that Columbia is going to do a really great job of preparing you for whatever that plan B, C, D, E, F is, right? If you look at our core curriculum, right? We really want to make sure, again, that the core curriculum allows you the opportunity to really hone in on those critical thinking skills, on your creativity skills, on those things that are going to allow you to go and do whatever it is that you end up doing after you graduate. Okay, for many of our students, it is in the field that they choose to go into. For some of our students, they might finish off their degree and decide not to go into the field that they majored in. That is totally, that's a pretty typical standard thing for a lot of us, right? I was a early childhood education major, and I am not teaching early childhood students. Like that's just the reality of the situation. So it's really about those transferable skills and how we really prepare students to be able to go out and kind of do that work once they graduate. There's a really interesting, actually a couple of interesting studies out there that and one in particular LinkedIn did, right? So they surveyed a lot of the different organizations, businesses, entities out there that post different job postings for people to apply for on LinkedIn. And what they were asking those folks was, what's the most important skills that you feel like new graduates should have once they leave their institution and apply for these jobs? And the number one soft skill that these organizations are looking for is creativity. And think about it. You would be attending a college for creatives. That is what we do. Like, we work with creative students day in and day out. We ourselves, I consider myself a creative. I know Brian's certainly a creative. Like, that is what we do, right? And so we are really preparing students to go into whatever field it is that they end up doing, because we're really trying to do our best to develop those soft skills so that you can be successful once you graduate. Now, say that you want to have that extra assurance and get maybe a minor in marketing or something like that. That's certainly not going to hurt you in any way, shape, or form. But I really do truly believe that Columbia does a great job of really preparing folks for whatever that next step is, regardless of what it is. So Brian, I don't know what your take is just in terms of like that plan B kind of question and what you would, maybe suggest or tips or tricks you give to a student.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from some people. I'd love to hear the chat questions are great, but I'd love to hear some voices as well. So I'll keep this short. I in some ways, I think that, it's an undergraduate degree in theater, and it's no small thing, right? It's 4 years of your life, and it's a lot of money and time and all that kind of stuff. If you want to be an actor, try to be an actor. Just give it a shot. You are going to need a survival job, as you get started, right? You're going to need some way of making money. And I worked in the stupid restaurant industry for 6 years, right? So I was a waiter, I was a bartender, I did all that stuff, right? And it was fine, didn't hurt me. It was annoying sometimes, but then I found my way into some other stuff and yada, yada, yada. But you can't, you're not doing it in college is great, and you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to hopefully be in shows, and you're going to blah, blah, blah. But until you get out into the world of actually auditioning for actual people and doing shows and running a show and finding out the kind of work that you're interested in doing and where you're interested in doing it, and really how terrible the money is for a lot of especially non-union theater to begin with, or how lovely the money is for film work, but how short-lived that stuff is. Like, wow, I made $1,000 today, and I'm going to make $2,000 in residuals, and then I'm not going to work for 3 months, right? So that's not very good money. So the reality is, you're just not going to make a lot of money when you first get out of here. Probably. We have had a few exceptions, but they're pretty few. But my thing is like, go for it. Try to be a performer, or a creative in the industry, and see where that takes you. And then you will find, you'll either get frustrated, bored, angry, or you'll have a brain stroke. And I mean, like a brain stroke of inspiration, not a brain stroke, but a stroke of inspiration. And go like, oh my God, my calling is here. Whatever that may be. And you're still young and you got lots of time to figure stuff out. But it's again, it takes a while to be an artist. It just does.
Yeah. And we just focus so much on, again, how can we help you be a working professional?
For sure.
Right? Like, we want you to be a working professional. And Isabella, I just love what you say. Yep. Right? I mean, it's so true. Like, it's thinking about how do you piece these different things together? I mean, freelance has taken off, in the last several years, especially. Like, there's so many other things that, again, I think you're going to have the skill set to be able to do some of.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure.
I do want to answer, there was a scholarship question, so I want to talk scholarships really quickly. And then to Brian's point, I would love to hear some other voices. So if other folks want to raise their hand, turn their mics on, and say some things out loud and ask some questions or share some comments, we'd love to hear that too. But in terms of scholarships, I'm going to start as kind of a high level, Colin, as it relates to scholarships in general. So for students who are applying to Columbia, there are 3 types of scholarships that students are going to be reviewed for, assuming that you do all of these things. First one is merit-based scholarships. All students are considered for merit-based scholarships. That is based on your academic history. It's really looking at your GPA and the grades and your rigor of your curriculum, and those kind of things is what we're looking at when it comes to the merit-based scholarships. I mentioned this earlier, someone had kind of asked about this. Is it really true that Columbia is test optional, right? And so I want to address that here as well. Columbia for this upcoming year is completely test free. What that means for us is that we do not believe in the value of ACT or SAT testing. Okay, there's a lot of data out there, a lot of studies out there that shows that basically the whiter you are or the richer that you are, the better you tend to do on these tests. So we're not participating in it anymore. We said we're done with it, and we've always been test optional, but now we've kind of said, even if you send your test in, we're not even going to take a look at it. We're not putting it in our system. We're not looking at it. Okay, so important to know. Okay, so merit-based scholarships are mainly going to be based on GPA and your academic history. Okay, those range up to $15,000 per year, depending on who you are. If you're a freshman, if you're a transfer, there are some special merit-based scholarships for students coming from Chicago public schools, as an example. So we've got kind of some nuance there, but generally speaking, merit-based scholarships cap out at $15,000 per year. The second type of scholarship we offer at Columbia are need-based scholarships. These are scholarships for students if you file the FAFSA, which is the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Okay, for students who file the FAFSA, you can gain another need-based scholarship based on your FAFSA results, up to another $5,000 to $6,000 per year, and that scholarship would be stackable on top of your merit-based scholarship. Okay, so important to kind of note that as a part of the process. So if you file the FAFSA, we will consider you for one of those need-based scholarship programs. I will tell you, last year, every single freshman that applied for the FAFSA received a need-based scholarship. Most transfer students, not all, but most transfer students received one of those need-based scholarships as well. So if you're the student that's like, but my parents make too much money and we're not going to qualify for anything, I always say apply for the FAFSA anyway. Okay, go through that process. FAFSA, just so everyone is aware, it opens on October 1st, which is Friday. I think it's Friday. That's Friday. So start filing the FAFSA listing and make sure you list Columbia down on your FAFSA. The third type of scholarship that we offer to students are talent-based scholarships. This is called our Faculty Recognition Award. Okay, students will be able to either submit a portfolio or audition for a Faculty Recognition Award. If you are a student who's applying for one of our BA programs, so say you decide that you want to apply for the BA in acting or the BA Musical Theater, so that's what you want to do, you will be able to submit a portfolio by January 19th, which is also, I think, a Wednesday this upcoming year. But January 19th, you'll be able to submit a portfolio and we will consider you for one of those faculty recognition awards. If you are a student who's applying for one of our BFA programs, so the BFA in acting or that BFA in musical theater performance, you will automatically be considered for the faculty recognition award when you submit your pre-screening materials. Okay, so nothing else that you have to do as a part of that process. Those scholarships top out last year at about $5,000 as well. Okay, so all of those 3 scholarship programs are all stackable on top of each other. So there are some students that will get scholarships up to about $25,000 to $26,000 per year. Tuition at Columbia is $28,000 per year for this current academic year that we're in. Our goal is to cover as much as tuition as we possibly can. Room and board, if you're living on campus, that will be something that most families have to figure out a way to cover that. And we estimate about $13,000 per year to live in one of our residence halls on campus. Okay, so that's a little bit about our scholarship process here at the college. Cool, any questions about that? Excellent. Cool. We've got 20-ish minutes left. We'd love to hear your additional questions. So if anyone is feeling brave and would like to turn on your mic and ask a question that you might have, we would love to hear them. And sometimes what that means is that folks don't have any other questions, and that is also okay too, but I do want to leave it open just another minute or a few seconds and just see if there's any other questions folks have. Anu, hello.
Anu, thank you.
Hi, I was wondering for the semester abroad, where are some places that students went to?
Sure, I can address that directly. So what we do is, I mean, you could go through a traditional study abroad provider and do that traditional study abroad thing. But the way that we prefer you to do this is we've developed relationships, certainly through the theater department, with very particular schools. They're mostly in the UK and Ireland because of English speaking. Most of our students are English speaking. There are a couple of schools in South America, one in Chile and one in Peru. If you're Spanish speaking, that we can set that up. And if you're a Korean speaker, you could potentially go to K Arts in Seoul, South Korea, which is an astonishing school. I was there for a semester a couple of years ago. So these schools are primarily in the UK and Ireland, but we've been really selective about choosing schools that have a good match with Columbia College, and that what they're doing with the theater, like say in the UK, is they're not the sort of typical, right? They're not RADA or Lambda or BADA, right? They're not the sort of like Shakespeare finishing schools, right? You know, we work with Rose Bruford College, which is just south of London, with actually their American Theater Arts program, and they're really interested in what is theater doing. That is, you know, what is English speaking theater doing? We work with University of East London, which is the most diverse university I've ever been a part of. I was there for a semester like 15 years ago now. What? But their student body comes from all over the world, and they do applied theater. They do, what is the theater doing in the community of East London, right? How is theater being used as a community building tool with immigrants, with the working class people, and the incredibly diverse sort of humanity that you see in East London. So we're doing those kinds of things. And so what you do is you actually go on exchange for a semester. You go to, right, University of East London, you're in their classes, you're with their students, you're taking their curriculum, you're embedded in that school, you're working with students from East London. And so you're part of the curriculum, you're part of their world, right? And it costs you no money because your tuition, I mean, you have to get on a plane and sadly spew carbon into the atmosphere and do that sort of thing. Just real. But anyway, you go abroad and you pay your tuition to Columbia College, your scholarships, your grants, your loans all apply. So there's no added cost other than airfare. and any difference in living expenses between, living in London and living in Chicago, which is usually pretty similar. So, again, a lot of study abroad students tend to be whiter, richer, right? Because they can afford the really large study abroad costs that traditional study abroad providers offer, and they do beautiful work. Like, those programs are really great, but if you can go and it might cost you like an extra $2,000 out of your life to go spend a semester in London or Ireland, or right, then that's what you do. Cool.
And then the other thing I like to mention in general is we do a lot of faculty-led sessions over what we call J session, which is our January term. So we've got like a 3-week roughly term in January. And so that's a really great opportunity for just some smaller, shorter kind of immersion programs that allow students to also go.
So I spent a lot of the last 2 days working on our J session course, which is called The Actor's Guide to Hollywood, and takes place in the first like 2 weeks of January. And you go to LA for 2 weeks and really get immersed into like, how does the business work in Los Angeles? You do some work with, auditioning for, on-camera auditions and stuff like that. And we bring in LA casting directors, we bring in alumni, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time. Derek, did you know Behzad?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So Behzad is going to teach that course for us this year. Behzad Dabu is an alumnus of ours from 2008. He's been on The Shy. He's done a lot of stuff. He's also just a really, really lovely human being. So Behzad is going to
He used to work for, I always share, he used to work for the admissions office at Columbia. Like, he worked in admissions, and then I saw him on How to Get Away with Murder, and I was like, oh, okay, yep. I guess he just like, things just kind of accelerated for him.
When I shot my day shooting on Widows, right, and I got to work with Viola Davis for like 20 minutes, whatever. I was there for a couple of hours with her, but I was like, I knew Behzad had been on a TV show with her, so I was like, did you get along with Viola Davis? Because I'm right. So I walked onto set, and I was like, hi, how are you? Blah blah. I was like, do you know Behzad? She's like, oh my God, Behzad Dabu. And I was like, yeah, I taught that guy, right? And so it was my in to sort of having like a nice chat with Viola Davis for part of the morning, right? When I had my one line on Widows that took 2 callbacks, Derek. I had to go back.
Gotta take it though. Gotta take that line.
Twice to PR casting to get cast in with my line, but whatever. So yeah, Behzad is going to teach that class, but it's super cool. It's really great. So yeah, we do those kinds of things as well. And then the other thing about the exchange, which is really exciting, of course, is it's an exchange. So those students come to us. So like I'm teaching an on-camera class, and today, one of the students in there, his name is Chaska May, and he's from Rose Bruford University. So he's in the class with our students and he's from San Lucia. And then my directing class, I'm teaching a directing 1 class, and we have a woman named Zane Yes, who is coming from University of Greenwich to us. She's Nigerian by her heritage. And so we're also like trying to work with schools that are similarly diverse, right? To Columbia College, right? So it's cool. Like, Zane is, hanging out she's actually with us for a year. So she gets to hang out at Columbia College for a year and meet a bunch of Americans and study with us and do that stuff. And then go back to University of Greenwich and graduate. So it's good. So you even if you don't go abroad, you might be in class with somebody from abroad, and we'll have 10 to 12 students from overseas with us this spring, which is pretty super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. It's great, actually, is what it is.
What other questions do folks want to come off mic and
share,
or comments or whatever?
Hi. So these may be dumb questions, but I'm gonna ask them anyways. So for the BA and BFA in acting, do you guys require us to take gen ed classes?
Yep. So 42 hours of liberal arts and sciences are required in both degrees. In the BFA, you can count 6 of your courses in your major that are designated as BFA. So you could end up just taking 36 hours of liberal arts and sciences. But yeah, absolutely, you must take the LAS core, the Columbia core. along with your degree. And the college has been really wise about, creating a core that is for creatives, right? So you can certainly take basic psychology classes and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we also have classes like the psychology of creativity. Derek earlier put in one of the courses you take in the core is a course called Innovation and Impact. I actually taught one of those courses last spring, and I'll be teaching one of them this coming spring. And my section, the section that I'm about, is called Art and Artists at the Border. And the whole idea is, how do you, as an artist, think about working at borders, be they cultural borders, international borders, educational borders, age borders, disciplinary borders, right? Like, how do you create partnership, and how do you create projects that are art-based, that are about, crossing those borders? So I talked a little bit earlier about working with a poet from the English department who's written this, and published this really amazing poem in Phyllis Wheatley's voice. And so that's sort of a border work thing, right? Because he's written this poem, it's being published in a book. I'm a theater maker, but we're thinking about creating it in a podcast, so in an audio setting. But so I'm bringing, my understanding and sensibility around drama and story and that kind of stuff with response to the literary work of the poem, and trying to honor the creativity and the form of the poem, but then also squeezing it into the land of audio. So working with, really interesting audio designers and stuff like that. So that's it. I mean, that's the kind of work I do, is doing a lot of work that crosses disciplinary, but I've done a lot of film work and a lot of other things. And I worked internationally a lot, et cetera. So that's the course I teach. And it's really, how, it's an entrepreneurship. How can you make your way as an artist and think about creating work that is about, crossing boundaries, crossing borders. So that's sort of my jam. And
I think that's so important to mention just about that innovation and impact course, that it is one of the required, if you will, kind of business related or marketing kind of related courses that students have to take at Columbia, right? Yeah. That is built into the core curriculum, so that regardless, again, of what major a student does at Columbia, you got to take that particular course along with the rest of our core. And I did put the link to our core curriculum.
Yeah. It felt like a really good, I'd never taught it before, and it's a fairly new course. It feels like there's some really smart people who got involved in the creation of the darn thing. And then it felt like a really solid course, and the students initially were like, what is this thing about? Right. And I was like, I don't know. I've never taught it before. Let's figure it out. Right. And so there was a little bit of like I think this could work. But then, we're in dialogue with each other, and we totally made it work. And I think they walked away with that, I think with a really good experience from that course, and some, thoughts about the work. Anu, and sorry, are we pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Okay. Just want to, be right. What's the average amount of hours a BFA student spend working week? So that's a bit of a different thing at Columbia than it might be at a traditional conservatory school. Like at a place like DePaul, where you're not taking a lot of liberal arts and science classes, right? You're really focused on being you're in the acting program at DePaul. You have a lot more hours in the studio at DePaul, like just hours in the studio taking voice and movement work, than you do at Columbia. So we're a little bit less conservatory structured. The curriculum is very conservatory based, but we don't have the luxury of having hours, right? Because students are taking these liberal arts and science classes, et cetera. And so we don't quite have the luxury of having like, oh, we've got you from, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. basically every day, right? Like when I teach at Rose Bruford College in London, or at the Drama Conservatory in Dublin, those kids, that's all they do, right? They're only in the drama program. And so I'm like, okay, we got rehearsal from, 9 a.m. until 4, and then we're done, right? Like whatever, but they're there, all day long. And our schedules are a little bit more complicated. For sure. But yeah, it's hard to say, because students get involved in so many projects extracurricularly. So there are a lot of students who show up at, 9:30, 10 in the morning and leave at 9:30, 10, 11 o'clock at night. There's students right now in in a show right now that, yeah, I know they were there this morning because I had class with them at 12:30, and I know they're there. It's only 8:20. They're there for another hour and a half.
Cool. Other questions? Daniel and friend, did you have another one you wanted to ask? You can if you want.
For sure.
I mean, I have one my mom probably wants me to ask.
Fair.
Yep.
So say you don't get into Columbia and you go to community college to get a couple of credits. Will those credits like transfer over to Columbia if you apply the next year?
Typically, yes. So well, I'm going to say this. It depends, but most likely, yes. So
Okay.
the way that transferable credits tend to work is if you are taking credits from a regionally accredited institution and you have a C or higher, but there are some exceptions to that, but I'm just going to talk the general, C or higher, those credits will transfer to Columbia. Now, and I shouldn't even say challenge, but the thing to keep in mind is that the credits may transfer indifferently depending on what program you're in at Columbia, what your major is, the class that you took at that particular community college, what have you. So, for example, say that you take a History 101 kind of American history course at a community college. That is likely going to come into Columbia as History 101. It's going to count for a history course. Now, say that you take a arts related course at the community college level and you want to transfer that into Columbia. It's going to come to Columbia, but it might count towards your elective credits, those free floating credits that can be used for a minor or a double major, that kind of thing. It might transfer in as a part of the program that you're doing at Columbia, or it might count maybe as a part of a core class, right? So how it transfers in will be different depending on the course and depending on the program. But generally speaking, regionally accredited institution with a C or higher, we'll take them.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. 5 minutes left. Any last minute questions or comments or concerns that Brian or I might be able to answer for you all this evening?
I know. I'm gonna. Oh, sorry. Was that? Eliza and Domenica. You've kept your cameras on the entire time, which I deeply appreciate. But do you have a question?
And if not, I know Colin, it looks like, had unmuted.
Oh, Colin had unmuted. Sorry, Colin, if I interrupted you.
So if you want
No, it's fine. Sorry. What was my question? So I was talking to my admissions officer, and they said that some of their students, or one of them, I do not remember, had been able to get around $26,000 tuition instead of around 50. How common would you say that is? And besides the scholarships that are, I don't know, sort of included, what would you say freshmen can do to kind of reach that?
That's a good question. Who's your admissions officer? I'm just curious.
I want to say their name is Stephen Barnes.
Oh, that's one of my best friends. We love Stephen.
Oh,
cool. So Stephen was probably correct. So here's what I like to say. How likely is it, or how possible is it to get that high end, like when you think about all of the scholarships that we offer, to get up to $26,000 per year? So let's actually really play this out from a real perspective. So if you are a student who did really, really, really well in high school, right, you're going to be on the higher end of our scholarship model that we use in order to award scholarships. Say that you are a student who, and let me take a step back. For most of those students, you're looking at, say that you're like a 3.8 GPA student and you go to a random public school in Columbus, Ohio. I pick on Columbus because I'm from Columbus. You might get our top merit-based scholarship of $12,500 for the year. Now, say that you're that same student, 3.75, 3.8 GPA student, and you attended a Chicago public school, or maybe you went to a specific arts high school that's a part of the Art Schools Network. Instead of that 12.5 being your cap's going to be about 15,000 for the cap, right? So the cap kind of depends on just what school you're coming from, because we're trying to allocate our dollars to really take care of our local students here from Chicago that went to Chicago Public Schools in particular, to make sure those students can come. And then some students that have gone to some art specific focus high schools out there, really focus on that, right? So that, 3.8, 3.9 student who did really well, you're going to be on the top end of that range. Say that you are a student who applies to Columbia and you file the FAFSA, and maybe you come from what the government would consider a low income household. You're probably going to get another $6,000 in a Columbia Scholar Award, which is our need-based scholarship that we have at Columbia. Okay, so that's again stackable on top of that $15,000. And then say that you submit a portfolio or you apply for, again, a BFA program, and the faculty absolutely love you and they award you our top faculty recognition award. That's another $5,000. So that would be an example of a student who would get kind of the max between all the different scholarship programs that we offer, right? Some students might, out of those 3 programs, might only get one of them or 2 of them and not the other. So that's going to minimize your scholarship. But as long as you file the FAFSA, we're also going to take a look at and see what other federal grant money that you might qualify for. What kind of state grant money might you qualify for? What kind of federal loan money might you qualify for? And those are other things that are ultimately going to be on your financial aid award letter as well. So long story short, Colin, it's hard to really say who gets, a $26,000 award letter versus who gets a $10,000 award letter. But those are some of the things that that would contribute to that. So does that answer your question, Colin?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Taylor, to your question here, say that your cumulative GPA isn't very high, but your junior and senior year, you've been on honor roll. Will that help in scholarships? Maybe. Possibly. Yeah, it kind of depends, right? I mean, here's a great way to kind of think about it, generally speaking. This is very general. If you're a student who had in high school, say you have a 3.0 cumulative GPA or higher, you will likely qualify for a merit-based scholarship from us. That is likely if you graduate with a 3.0 GPA from your high school. Say that you're a student who went to community college first, right? And you're looking to come to Columbia after going to a 2-year program somewhere else. And say that you have like a 2.75 or higher, you're probably going to get a merit-based scholarship as well, right? So those are general guidelines, but again, we really look at every student individually. We're looking at everything that we kind of have on file for you, and then we're getting those scholarships out from that. Tate, hello. I know you came in a little bit later. We talked a little bit about scholarships for BFA students. We have a talent-based scholarship program called our Faculty Recognition Award, and that is for both BA and BFA students. So if you apply for a BFA program, you will automatically be considered for that particular talent-based scholarship, but merit-based scholarships are across the board kind of for everyone.
Right. And there are, within the theater department, and within a number of departments at Columbia, if you go on columbia.edu/scholarship, I believe is the link. There are a number of theater department specific scholarships that are not for incoming students, but for ongoing students, right? They tend not to be large dollar amounts, right? $1,500, $2,000, $1,200, right? Every little bit helps, right? And also scholarships that you apply for and earn tend to inspire other people to give you money in from other places, right? Like, oh, I got this scholarship. It's like, oh, that's cool, right? So those are good. So and it's surprising how few students apply for those, right? So we have a Chicago Drama League retention scholarship, right? Which the Chicago Drama League gave us a bunch of money a bunch of years ago, and we've managed to sort of keep that alive, and are give out about $4,500 a year in that scholarship. But this last year, I'm on that scholarship committee, whatever. What committee am I not on?
Minor detail.
Anyway, so it's all good. But anyway, I think 5 people applied for it.
Yeah, And that's a great point that Brian shared. That colum.edu/scholarships link that I put in there, and sorry, my dog is whining because, say hello, Parker.
Because it's 8:30 and you need to go. And so do I.
It's probably super excited about it. But yeah, the scholarships there, we have a ton of scholarships for continuing students. So what I've described are just the scholarships as you come into Columbia. Once you're here, there are other scholarships that you can apply for separately while you're here too. Okay. So with that, let's shut it down now. It is 8:33 on my watch here. Thank you all for being here this evening. Let's thank Brian for being here and sharing some good knowledge. We thank Jesse, even though he had to go back to rehearsal, for being here and sharing some good knowledge. Again, we did record this particular session, so we will be sending emails out to folks here in probably the next week-ish with this particular video up so folks can review it. You can go back and take a look at it if you missed parts of it or what have you. But otherwise, we look forward, hopefully, to all of you applying to Columbia. Colum.edu/apply is where you can certainly do that, or you can fill out the Common App if you want to do that as well. Either one is fine with us. But thank you all so much for being here this evening. We wish you the best of luck. Let us know how we can help you through the process, but we look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, goodbye.